Okay, Professor Fields back here. We're in the module 4. It has to do with the capacity to commit crime. And we're going to discuss children under the age of 14 and how the system treats children under the age of 14. California statutory law refers to the physical age of 14, not the mental age. You may have a cousin that acts like he's 12, but he's 36 years old. That doesn't count. We're actually talking about people that are actually under the age of 14. So basically, all persons under the age of 18 are juveniles, and they're subject to the juvenile court unless there's a number of different provisions, and we talk about that a little bit later on. We talked about that a lot in AJ 100 when we talked about the juvenile section. We'll talk about that more later on. Persons under the age of 18 still have the same rights as constitutional rights, like the right to remain silent, the right to have counsel, the right to bail. The only right they don't have right now is a right to a jury trial. That's actually being discussed in possibly coming up in Supreme Court cases later on. But for right now, they don't have a jury trial, but they have all the other rights when they're under the age of 18. So how do you see these 14-year-olds going to state, or not state prison? How do you see these 14-year-olds getting sent to adult court? So to hold a minor culpable for crimes under the age of 14, you have to show that they knew what they were doing. They were conscious of the act, and they knew the act was wrong and bad, and that there was some kind of consequence for doing this act, and whatever they did was going to cause some consequence to somebody else. Some of the things they look at are the age. If you got a 5-year-old and he finds daddy's gun and he's playing with it and he's playing cops and robbers and points it at his brother who's 9 years old and shoots him and kills him, is there criminal intent there? Likely not. A 10-year-old whose dad has taken him to the range a number of times, knows how a gun works, knows the damage the gun does, gets mad at one of his buddies, grabs dad's gun and goes out and shoots, yeah, you actually might be able to try that person in adult court because they knew, or they might be culpable of committing a crime because they knew what they were doing. They look at your education level. Have they been locked in a basement for years and they really don't understand what they're doing? They look at their intelligence. And what'll happen is they'll do a hearing. They'll do a suitability hearing, and they'll ask a number of questions, and they'll have somebody, psychologist usually, judge whether or not this person understood what their acts were and whether or not they could form that criminal intent. Because remember, from the last module, you got to have criminal intent to be convicted of a crime. That's part of the corpus delicti. All right, that's it for this section. We're going to go on to the next section.